Okay, we are just after 7 o'clock here. We'll give it another minute or two, see if anybody else joins the conversation. All right, there we go. It's time to get going here. We'll let in anybody else that joins us as we go along. But let me start by welcoming everybody who's here on the call with me to the South Carolina Cannabis Conversation. I'd like to welcome everybody that's on the call, anybody that may happen to be watching on YouTube, and also anybody who's watching this as a recording later on YouTube. When I mention YouTube, I usually like to mention we are not monitoring the YouTube comments live, but if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them down at the bottom off to the side wherever your device leaves comments. And once YouTube is done rendering the video, we'll come back and we'll try and address your questions, comments, and or concerns. With that, let me dig up our little disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. All righty. Big news of the week. We kind of briefly spoke of it last week. Oh, and mentioning last week, I do apologize. My machine locked up and ended the meeting abruptly. I did get logged back on, but it took me about 5 minutes or so to get logged back on. And by that time, I think everybody thought I was lost and out in the wind somewhere. So I just kind of wrapped things up last week. But as I mentioned last week, we've been I've been hearing for about a month now that, Schumer was going to be announcing the officially announce, submit the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. And then something popped up, and a couple of weeks later, I hear, it's going to be next week maybe, or something like that. Didn't hear anything. And then, a little later, it's like, it's tomorrow. Watch tomorrow. But finally, just the other day, not even looking in the right direction here. Was it Tuesday? I think it was actually Monday. Yeah, I think it was Monday because I got home from work and I was like, oh, look what happened this morning. They finally announced the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. That basically they had announced last year and submitted as a congressional draft, as a draft legislation, which is not official legislation when it's done in draft. Let it out for about a 2-month period, I believe. Oh, good, Joey's coming in. And then they opened it up to I want to say a 30-day comment period. It may have been 60 days, but for some reason, I think it was like about 30 days or so that they opened up for comments. And, of course, we were signing on to letters with NORML, supporting certain changes in it, and agreeing with other parts of it and things like that. And I think it was September 1st, if I remember correctly, or the day before, but basically around the September of last year was when they ended the comment period and said, okay, we got to get to work, redrafting this. I have not gotten the text. I don't know. I was supposed to have it sent to me. I didn't see it sent to me, so I'm gonna have to go dig it up. But it's my understanding it's a 300-page document. So it's gonna probably take some time deep diving into this thing. There has been some, I want to try and find the right document. I have it on another tab over here. Some modest commentary from NORML's officials. More or less, I think the comments so far have been, just we're happy that this has been announced. And according to this document, good informational document I got as an email. If you're on the emailing list, you all probably did too. But there's, of course, the fundraising in as well. It annoys me a little. I know it's necessary. But yeah, this one came out 25th, so Monday. And it was a response by our executive director, Eric Altieri. I don't know if this made it to the NORML website yet. Let me check it. No, nothing about it since. But I do understand, because I remember during the comment period last September, one of the biggest questions was, what about this crazy tax bracketing that they had? Basically, it was a tax on, I'm guessing, the manufacturing stages, ranging from 5% to 25%. Over a 5-year period. And the one key point that was often mentioned is that was for the 20 million and first dollar and up, that the tax rates were half of that for the first $20 million. Excuse me. And that in essence was explained as a way to kind of help the small farmers and the small manufacturers and things like that, by having the half tax rate for them. And then that rate was, again, for the larger manufacturers that were doing more than $20 million in business, they would pay the higher tax rates on that additional amount. Josh just popped a question here in the chat. Did you see that they had the safe banking and military access to the defense budget? I did get that. Let me see, check my notes here. There was a number of things that were added to that. Veterans, homeland, employment protection. So there were some protections that were added into that. To that bill, as well as you say, the safe banking and the military access. Yeah, military access and the protections on home loans, employment protection with cannabis, obviously, in their system. So yeah, the only real notes I have from the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act from the other day was, no chance this year to pass. Minor changes in the tax structure, a little bit better for small biz. But again, I'm assuming it's real similar to the tax structure it had before. So I'm waiting for others to kind of get deep dive into it and analyze it a bit further, to break it down so it's more understandable for me. So I'm keeping an eye on that. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Wasn't there something else, or maybe it was safe banking? Okay. That defense budget, and I think that was on the House bill. So that was the House version of that particular defense budget. Because that won't come up then until September in the Senate. So that'll be coming up in September in the Senate. But thank you, Josh, for that comment. Question. All right. That's most of what I know about it. The one thing I do want to point out is I'm going to drop a link. Let me copy this link here quick down into the chat. I missed this yesterday, so I just pulled it up a little while ago, realizing that the link also worked as not just a live feed, but it's recorded there at this link. This is decriminalizing cannabis at the federal level, necessary steps to address past harms, a subcommittee on criminal justice and counterterrorism that took place yesterday. Hearing that, excuse me, hearing that took place yesterday. Cory Booker presiding, and they did, like they say, stream it live. If you do happen to go to this recording link that I gave you, kind of grab the slider, go in about 22 and a half minutes, because it doesn't start for 22 and a half minutes. And it's from that point, it's about another 2 hours, then it's a 2-hour hearing. So if you have a little bit of time, you want to log on to that hearing. I think that's pretty interesting. I've only gotten partway into it before a call started tonight, so I'm planning on adding that to my list of things to kind of like listen to later on. Any comments on the Senate bill, what their thoughts are on it? I do want to kind of remind you, as we took note of in that Nancy Mason interview on in Marijuana Moment a few weeks back, talking about if she won her primary, because this is actually before the June primaries. I think that the interview happened or right thereabouts. That she felt Schumer's, she kind of echoed what happened here in South Carolina with the medical bill. That you know, if there's a tax revenue generating portion of it, it's going to make it moot because it's coming from the Senate. So I asked you know, our national political advisor, and he said it's not going to make a difference. That tax, because a lot of it was because I recalled that the tax rates were kind of a big thing at that when it was first announced. So I knew there was that tax generating language already in there. But he said, no, that's not going to stonewall it in any way. So I don't understand. I still don't understand if that's a federal thing. I don't think maybe it is. Maybe it is just a quirky South Carolina thing, or maybe it's something that they don't address that same way at national level. We'll wait and see, because it has a lot to me, it has a pretty strong influence on what happens with it here in South Carolina at some point, especially descheduling, if that would go through. Now, let me check real quick here. Josh, I don't know the breakdown of the bill yet. If anybody else has some better information on it, let me know. Basically, as Morgan Fox, who is our national political advisor, had mentioned the other day, what day is it today? I was on a call with him, so it was almost a week ago now, last Thursday. They were going to, make their initial announcement, which they did on their blog at normal.com.org, excuse me, on the 21st. But that they would, because it's a 300-page document, be taking a little bit of time to go through it before, releasing any other commentary on it. So, oh, what's that? North Carolina bill is a 200-page long bill.
Oh, no. I was just saying North Carolina is they're trying to get their medical bill passed the same way we did. And it just passed the Senate over there, and now it's going to the House.
Oh.
So I'm waiting to see what happens there. I'm sure it's going to get shot down too, but wondering how.
Yeah, it's going to be a wait and see. I mean, I'm really hoping for them because, of course, it'll benefit us in the long run if North Carolina moves forward, as you know that as well as I do, getting closer to our borders here. But yeah, that's my understanding with what's going on with the Schumer bill, Schumer Booker. Oh, heck, I forgot the last one's name now. Wyden. But 300-page document or thereabouts from what I understand. And so I'm, like I said, I'm waiting for the people that know how to read this stuff to read it and then kind of dumb it down for me. So I will have some more details in the next coming week or two. And let you know. I see in chat here, Joe is having some audio issues. He's going to move over and watch on YouTube. But that's what I have on this bill for the moment. I mean, I was kind of surprised last week because it caught me off guard. I think we were talking about it, at our meeting on Wednesday, and then pretty sure it was Thursday, whenever the 21st was, that they popped back up with it again, or that they finally announced it. But yes, so like I say, going back to the Nancy Mace thing, she's still pushing with hers, the State Reform Act. Her commentary, I believe, was after the Novembers. If she wins her seat back, she is going to really start pushing it and try and get sponsors or co-sponsors signed up. Last I looked, and I haven't looked in a couple of weeks, probably a couple of months, is she had 4 co-signers on at that point. I'm going to check it just because I like to Google every now and again. And see where she is with that. Co-sponsors, 4. So basically, here's the link for that bill if you'd like to look at the text for it. Depending on, I guess, what type of browser, whatever you're looking at it, there is a a series of tabs, and one of those tabs is the co-sponsors. You can click on that co-sponsor tab and go find out who they are. Of the four, there's obviously none from South Carolina. It would be nice if there was other House members in South Carolina that would sign on to, the representative's bill. We've got a California, Don Young. I always forget. I don't know if AK is Alaska, Florida, and Michigan. Those are the four different states where there's representatives that are co-signed on with her bill. Not a bad bill. Tax rates on it are relatively low, especially compared to the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. Has some reparative justice type language in it. Not a bad bill. Yeah, I can't really knock it for the most part. But
I can give a little insight. She's just waiting and posturing herself, for after the midterms, of course, if she wins, and also, waiting, her ideas that the Republicans are going to take back over. And the ones that do, it's going to be a lot of fresh new blood coming in. So I think she's going to gain a lot more support after November.
yeah, I mean, I could see that happening for her. I'm glad she won her primary. I definitely am. And my take on it, and this is just my personal opinion, no disrespect to anybody here, but although she was a junior, Nancy was a junior congresswoman now she's no longer, and if she wins this election, now she's not a junior anymore per se. Where this Dr. Annie Andrews, I don't know how well known she is. I don't think she has any real political background that I'm aware of. So it's going to be an uphill fight for her, I believe. Again, I'm in that district, so it's it'll be intriguing to watch and see who comes out on top there. I'm rooting for Nancy as far as her descheduling bill goes. Because this Dr. Andrews has not spoken out as strongly to do something along those lines, although she has spoken out, and as a matter of fact has finally, as after the primary, she actually responded to our candidate questionnaire positively, so she'll end up getting a good rating as far as cannabis policy goes on our Smoke the Vote guide. So it'll be an interesting race, and then if Nancy wins, it's cross our fingers on the Reform Act, States Reform Act. If she doesn't, we don't know exactly what we're going to get. If another new freshman, that was the word I was thinking of. Another freshman legislator, tries to propose a federal descheduling bill. Be quite honest with you, I think Nancy's bill would have a better shot at it. But we'll see. We'll see how the dice roll. It'll be interesting. I think I mentioned last week a little bit of it. I did have a candidate, a pro-cannabis candidate, and I don't know anything more about him than that. I think it was Twitter, might have been Instagram. I think it was Twitter. Apparently it sent back his candidate questionnaire, and I must have either missed it right off the bat. I don't know if it was sent before or after the primaries. And as some of you know, I went on vacation, well, not really vacation, but a trip up to Pennsylvania to spend some time with family. And that was like the long weekend before the primaries that actually happened. And so some of it, I'd say at least a week before the primary election day, I shut down on all things candidate questionnaire and all things with the Smoke the Vote guide. I figured by that point, I think it's probably even closer to 2 weeks out. I probably figured at that point, these candidates have answered. I'm not going to hear from them. Send my energies elsewhere about promoting, get out and get out and vote. So anyway, this guy was sort of, I guess, making snide comments or something about, oh, well, I certainly hope NORML sees this and actually, acknowledges or something. We filled out the questionnaire. So finally, when I did see it, and I think he only posted 1 or 2 things that were like at us. I was like, oh, dude, we can't access the database. I didn't say, yo, dude. Our chapter can't access the database on the Smoke the Vote guide until like 60 days prior to an election. And so once we get 60 days out, we'll update his questionnaire and acknowledge that, we've received it. And he responded back real positively. He's like, hey, this is great to know, because sometimes you fill out these questionnaires for different things and they go off into the ethos and you never hear anything more about it. I'm like, oh no, we'll get your opinion out there on cannabis. So as I mentioned probably also last time, and I'll mention it again, as we round the corner into the beginning of September, so just over a month away, I think it's probably a weekend or so, and that's going to put us 60 days or so out from the election in November. The election day, I believe, is November 8th this year. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure it's November 8th. And so the focus will be, again, getting back to trying to reach out to the candidates, get their position, get it in our guide, get that guide information out to the voters just before the election, and cross our fingers that enough voters are what's the word I'm looking for? Cannabis focused enough on the cannabis issue, or focused enough on the cannabis issue to vote for the better cannabis candidates, whoever they may be. Josh makes a point about Mace's bill. She's got the only bill that Republicans will support. There was one other descheduling bill. It didn't include any kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Social equities, restorative justice. It was just deschedule, boom. No expungements for past convictions, no any of that kind of stuff. I don't know if that one will get support or not. But beyond that, and that one, was that a Senate bill? I don't recall. But yeah, you're right. As far as the descheduling bills, they're not going to support the MORE Act from the House or the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act coming out of the Senate. As I mentioned, there's absolutely no chance of that legislation passing this year. And the elections are going to have a lot to do with it. who controls the House, who controls the Senate, controls what bills get heard in committee in most cases. I mean, I have seen some where there are um, chair people in certain committees are from the minority party in that House or Senate, in that particular House of the Congress. That will move some legislation forward that I wouldn't have expected to see it. Josh is predicting, lame next 2 years. Yeah, sometimes I really wish I didn't have to focus on this and I could focus more on learning about how to decriminalize at the municipal level here in South Carolina. I think I've got it down pat, it's just a matter of either getting out there and then presenting it to town councils, or doing what a lot of them are doing in Ohio, collecting signatures from the people and getting it onto local ballots. We can't do state ballot initiatives here because it's not in the South Carolina Constitution, but we can get municipal. So these are things we need to really look into. Actually, with that said, I have to make myself a note. And I will tell you a little bit more about that. And we've probably talked about it on the conversation before. That I believe there's a couple of other people here in the Charleston area looking to decriminalize at the county level, which would be huge. I mean, there's 46 counties in the state, and Charleston County is probably one of the more populated ones or most populated one. And I've heard some comments from some of our listeners, a couple of other folks that it was happening. And matter of fact, I know some of the folks that I'm, that are involved. And I said, keep me updated what's going on, and I haven't heard anything. So maybe I'm just wasn't kept involved. I don't know. But yeah, I'm making myself a note to do a little bit of outreach this coming week. See if I can get a couple of people to kind of fill me in on what's going on here on Charleston County. Because that would be a great start, a great way to tell the legislators here in South Carolina that we want decriminalization. I mean, yeah, I know we focus and talk a lot about medical, and that's a small part of it. We definitely, what do we want really is full legalization of recreational use for adults, or, adult use, however you wish to phrase it. Decriminalization, I don't think anybody should ever go to prison for weed. I don't think, excuse me, you should get caught with simple possession and then have that jeopardize your future work endeavors, whatever they may be, and that can happen. I don't think anybody who consumes cannabis should be somehow or another harassed by children's services telling them they're not a good parent, and having their children taken away because they smoke cannabis, consume cannabis. There's a lot more to it. So I think decriminalizing simple possession at a county level here in South Carolina, sorry about that, I'm getting a little dry, would make a real big statement to our legislators. And because of the struggles, now I just happened to see Kyle's comment pop up. Typically states go medical first, so states can get up and running with shops and then sell rec out of them later, two separate types of shop. I gotta agree, as Kyle saying in his comment on the chat, States typically go medical first. They can kind of get things up and running, at least on a smaller scale for production and shops and things like that. And then once they, can move forward, legalization. And those shops quite often will, switch over and or sell both or, and his final line on that is, I haven't seen the state go recreational then medical. No, because if one would go directly recreational, there's no need to go medical. There'd be no point to it. And I've said this probably more than once, that I think decriminalization is really more important in my heart than medical, because I think it'll benefit a lot more people. You can decriminalize, it's going to help a lot of medical people. They're not going to have as much worry about being caught with simple possession. And then it's going to help a whole bunch of other people who may not necessarily need it for medical reasons, but if simple possession was a $25 ticket or no ticket, or better yet, no fine, no time, no court cost decriminalization, like I talk about so often. Oh, excuse me, I'm having trouble talking tonight. That'd be even better. My feeling on it is that the advocates that advocate so passionately for medical are generally folks that either need it for themselves medically or need it for a loved one. And that's honorable. But there's other people that pay a big burden, I guess is the way I'll put it, just for having gotten caught with simple possession at some point in their life, or even admitting to their family and friends, oh yeah, I consume cannabis. Oh, then the stereotypes all kind of kick in. Or let's take another quick look at it. The trucking industry right now, I've talked about this a number of times because I get a kick out of it. They've lost a lot of truckers. I forget the number now, 10,000 or whatever, through random cannabis testing. And instead of these truckers going, oh, well, I'll go through like your rehab program or whatever it is so I can keep my truck driver's license and keep on driving. They say, screw that. I'm not going to bother. I'll go find a different job that I don't have to worry about them pee testing me for or something like, yeah. So they're shooting themselves in the foot. A lot of these businesses are. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people, probably further than we even realize, that are affected on a regular basis by cannabis prohibition, by the criminalization of cannabis. I want legalization, but decrim at a municipal level, moving across the state, that would even help the medical people. I mean, it would help in more than one way. One, it would people in those particular communities that were decriminalized, they'd be maybe a little less worried about getting caught with a little bit of their cannabis and they're with them while they're doing whatever about their day, going about their day. Secondly, it's a great way to send a message to the legislature that we want to move forward with cannabis law reform. And so that, what bills are getting proposed, the medical bill. And, we know Tom Davis is going to come right back in again. Sorry about that. He's going to come right back in again with pretty much that bill, the way it left that House, floor vote. Was that floor vote, committee vote? Where were we on that one? Oh, it made it out of the committee. And got shut down on the floor. Correct. Anyway, when that got shot down, I think that version of it right about that point is it's gonna come back almost identical unless they pull the taxation language out of it. You know, that would probably be the biggest change. But yeah, either way, we need to start moving forward. Matter of fact, I did just have a board meeting this past weekend with our local board. I am going to check my August schedule here and see if I can get us at least set up with our booth somewhere during the month of August. Probably gonna hit Marion Square since they haven't ever let us come down there officially on a Saturday at the farmer's market. I just need to pick a weekend where I'm available. There we go, August 27th.
Scott, are you gonna be giving out free marijuana information?
What's that?
Are you gonna be giving out free marijuana information?
That is our plan. Yep, we're gonna go out to, my guess is just set up the whole booth. It's August. It's gonna be sunny out. We're gonna want a little cover. We can't do it where the actual market is. But it's a public park. So I don't know why we can't do it out in the other open area. If you've ever been to Marion Square in Charleston, it's you know, park in downtown Charleston, kind of right in a really busy intersection. You get a lot of people moving by. They happen to put a farmer's market in there on Saturday mornings, early afternoon. I think it ends at 1 or 2, something like that. And at the one corner, right at King of Calhoun, there's usually a group of young fellows that set up and do, I guess it would be considered breakdancing, playing music. They have a mat down that they do their dancing on. And I'm sure that's not a vendor booth with the farmer's market. So, you know, equal access, if they can express themselves, on park property while the farmer's market's going on, we should be able to express ourselves at the farmer's market or on the public park while the farmer's market's going on. So yeah, that's what it's looking like. I have one Saturday available in August where I can actually be there. So August 27th, if you're in the neighborhood, I'll talk more about it in the next couple of weeks as we get some things planned out. But 1 month from today. All right, let me peek at the time here. I see we got 7:43. Oh, what else did Kyle mention here? Before I meant to see what Kyle mentioned here, Josh, interesting comment after we need to start with decriminalization, and then I want to grow my own. Keep in mind, decriminalization is generally for simple possession less than an ounce. Growing is a federal offense. That's not so that wouldn't be covered. Unfortunately, that's the small step we have to take to begin with. Growing your own, you know, that's where the legalization comes in. Or a few months, I don't know now, it's been a little while, but I joined in a Philadelphia NORML meeting one time, a few months back, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and it was rather an interesting contrast or juxtaposition to what we talk about a lot of times, which is trying to get medical, trying to get decrim, trying to get people not locked up. You know, they've got medical, and I believe they've got decriminalization in oh yeah, they've got decriminalization in Philadelphia. But they want home grow. So that's what their focus is now, is home grow. Or at least last time I talked to them, I'm assuming they haven't gotten there yet. So yeah, it's a long road. Even if, like I say, medical got through, There's going to be more effort into fixing medical, like what, it's got 12 qualifying conditions versus Mississippi's 24 or something like that. So adding qualifying conditions, hopefully adding flower, adding smoking, adding, things to it, and then trying to get decriminalization worked in there. It's not like there hasn't been decrim bills sponsored here in South Carolina multiple times, multiple bills each session. Simple, decriminalization of simple possession. But all the ones I've seen are generally proposed by the minority party and die in committee. That's where these chairmanships over these committees can be real important, because they're the ones who control the floodgates on what legislation even gets considered in their committee and what never even gets acknowledged. So elections coming up in November. Let's see what we can do, see if we can change some legislators in South Carolina. I know Jill Swing with the Compassionate Care Alliance has been somewhat involved with some other candidates in her community. And they may have access. They use Marijuana Policy Project's voter guide. That's where they kind of send most of their followers to. And I'm assuming Marijuana Policy Project is the one that then tries to gather the candidate information. So, all right. I see we are kind of getting a little closer to the hour. Let me see if there's any other comments. Like I mentioned, Josh wants to grow. Kyle had a chance to grow in Arizona and didn't stay. Bummer. But yes, growing would be nice. I don't know if I'd have the green thumb enough to do it. But some of the craft growers, that's the way to go. I think, small craft growers in our communities. And let me roll back one other thing that now that I'm kind of thinking about that is one of the issues with, again, decriminalization versus legalization. It's still a crime to have like more than an ounce, or whatever amount is deemed. Actually, I think they're at 100 grams at a lot of the decrims up in Ohio, so just shy of like a quarter pound. You could have in your possession, and it would be a lot of them are no fine, no time, no court cost. I know a pretty good percentage of them are that. Some are the $100 fine or that kind of stuff, like a traffic ticket sort of thing. But yeah, that's where decrim doesn't help that. You're still getting your cannabis from your buddy down the street, or some guy that knows a guy that has a friend, that whatever it might be. And that's where legalization does have what I think is one important component, and that is trying to, I hate to say regulation, but regulation. It has regulation. You can go out and buy it in the store. It can be displayed in front of you. You can see multiple different varieties there, but it's been tested. You'll see a certificate of analysis. You'll see that a lot actually in a lot of the hemp CBD flower shops as well. So, and that's just really important, especially in the medical aspect of it, because there's certain terpene combinations or certain strains that are going to be more beneficial for somebody's condition than others might be. So if you can get legalization with regulation, setting up the shops, I mean, that's where we've got one of the problems in DC is they don't have, or did they just they don't have any type of really mechanism to trade, to buy, sell, produce kind of thing. But yeah, that opens up a whole nother level of interaction with the product. Like I say, you've got your medical, and that'll help kind of set up the baby steps for a recreational market, but really does not a whole lot to decrim. Decrim, in my opinion, really is a way to help both of those fights. So, rant's over. I'm done. Anyway, we will kind of put it out there one last minute in case anybody has any other questions or comments they'd like to add here in the chat, or turn on your mic and chat with us.
I saw interesting, it was kind of a local news piece out of Myrtle Beach, and it was kind of like a why not article, and they were touring one of those CBD shops, and showing how you can get the buds and all the different types of pre-rolls and vapes, and and they were talking about how some of them even had stronger effects than what's illegal. I just thought that was interesting to watch. I don't know where I found it at. I believe it was on Facebook, and it was a Myrtle Beach thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd love to find a link to something like that, because you don't get a lot of that kind of coverage in South Carolina, especially. And it's sort of funny. I don't know what kind of shop they showed, but like I was recently in a CBD hemp shop, and it was still nice. They had flower there, and so you had some different strains. You still had some options, varieties. And it goes back to kind of what I was saying before about regulations. You want to know what's in it. You've got a certificate of analysis on all their products. They know the farm it comes from. And it was nice looking bud. Yeah, I mean, it was only CBD, but it was nice looking bud. And I can't deny I smoke some of the hemp. I have some both sativa and indica strains of hemp that I rather enjoy. They help sleep a little better at night and don't give me the THC hangover in the morning, if you will. Yeah, I don't know what the Delta 9 limits are on some of the other states. But it's my understanding that they've been bringing some of them down. You can't be making like 500 milligram gummies or something like that, or I guess the kind of story I've kind of heard was a really high milligram brownie, and you're supposed to eat like a little corner of it. No, I want to eat a whole brownie. So bring the THC level down to a usable level or something like that. I don't know. I've got mixed thoughts on edibles. I prefer the smoke myself, but all right, guys. I'm seeing 7:55. I can't hear it from now because I got earbuds in, but Final Jeopardy is probably starting. So I should record Jeopardy on Wednesday nights when I'm talking. I like to listen to it and guess at the answers. But anyway, I'm going to kind of call it for the evening. I, as always, want to thank you here and spending the hour with me on Wednesday night. thankfully I've got him at the new job, kind of giving me off Wednesdays now. So that works well. Don't forget to kind of keep an eye on what's going on our social media pages or visit our website at scnormal.org. But beyond that, come on back next Wednesday at 7 p.m. and we'll talk a little bit more about cannabis in South Carolina. That's all I got tonight, guys. Thanks again for joining.